if there's anything else you would like said about yourself, the floor is yours.
All right. Congratulations, new board members.
I hereby adjourn the 2026 Historical Society of Middleton meeting.
Cool.
Got that.
I was hoping you would hold off on the adjournment until we get done with this.
They came for you, not me.
God said to Noah, build me a boat. Something big's about to go down. And Noah said, God, I'm a simple man. I don't even know what a boat is. And why should I, what am I going to do with this boat? And God thought for a minute. Should I tell him? What if he spills the beans? And then he remembered why he picked Noah in the first place. Noah's a righteous man. He's not going to spill the beans. And even if he does, who's going to believe him? And so God told Noah why he needed this boat. And Noah's eyes grew big. I said, oh, God, I'm going to have to think about this. And God said, don't think too long. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And Noah said, don't worry about it. Now, God was really worried that Noah would get busy and forget. But he didn't. Now, I know when God asks you to do something, I mean, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to go to your psychiatrist and you're going to say, Doc, God just told me to build a big boat. Is it all in my head? Well, they didn't have psychiatrists back then. And Noah, he was a righteous man. He wanted to do the righteous thing. And he thought, well, what the heck? And so 2 days go by, and he goes out into the field, and he raises his hands like this. He said, God, are you there? And God said, yes, I'm here. What did you decide? And Noah said, count me in. But I don't know the first thing, how am I supposed to build this boat? And God said, don't you worry about that. We got people who do that. And he gave him a slip of paper. And Noah packed his trunk and he hopped a steamer for Newport News, Rhode Island. That's where they build all of the big ships. Right? And he arrived in Newport News and he rented a horse and he went down to the tavern. It's called the Minnow. And there he was supposed to seek out a man by the name of Jonas Grumby. Most people know him by the name of the Skipper. And so Noah rented a horse and he rode into town. And he got to the Minnow, and he tied up his horse outside, and he went into the bar. Now the skipper, things were hard in these days, and so everybody had two jobs. So the skipper, not only did he build ships, he actually, he's known for building the icebreakers that eventually cut through Guadalcanal, which made it that much easier for us to defeat the Japanese in World War II. Now the U.S. Navy didn't have to sail all the way around the Horn to get to Japan. No, they could cut straight through Guadalcanal. Anyway, so Noah ties up his horse outside the bar, and he walks into the bar, and the skipper waves him over, and he points. He says, why the long face? See, the horse got loose. It came into the bar. And so Noah said, hang on. And he took the horse outside and he tied him up and he came back into the bar and he said, are you the skipper? And the skipper said, yes. And Noah said, well, I got a job for you. And he handed him a napkin with Noah's sketches, which weren't very good. And he said, well, skipper, can you build this boat? And the skipper said, I can build anything. And he took the sketch and then he took a napkin and he wrote a bunch of numbers on the napkin. And he handed it to Noah. And even though Noah couldn't read, he saw that, whoa, that's a lot of numbers. And so he told the skipper, I got to check with the boss. And so he runs out back so that the horse doesn't see him into the alley. And he goes like this, God, are you there? And God said, yes, I'm here. And Noah handed him the napkin. And God said, Jesus Christ. Can I say that? and so then Jesus shows up. He said, what's up, Dad? What do you want? And God said, oh, no. It's just an expression, okay? Just go back to what you were doing. And so Jesus went out, and he rolled his eyes, because that's what kids do, right? You ask them to do something. Anyway, enough of that. So God said, well, you know what? Let's do this. Go back to the skipper and ask him, we don't need a fancy icebreaker, whatever. Have him make it out of wood. And, very important point. Make sure he agrees to net 40, okay? Net 40. Noah said, okay, I don't know what that is, but what the heck. So he went back into the bar and he told the skipper, okay, just make it out of wood, maybe some copper trim, just a simple boat. And skipper said, yeah, I could do that. And he wrote some other numbers and Noah nodded, okay. And he said, oh, and by the way, it's got to be net 40. And skipper said, well, normally we don't do terms. It's 50% up front, and then the balance is due upon delivery, right? I mean, come on. I'm not saying anything against your character, Noah, but you could just sail off, and when am I going to get paid? And then Noah whipped out a letter of credit, from the source. And the skipper looked at the letter and he said, you know what? Okay. I agree to the terms. So, he agreed to the terms and Noah said, well, when can I have the boat? And skipper said, well, it takes about a year to build a proper boat. And Noah said, a year? He's thinking, should I tell the skipper why I need this boat? And it's like, no, this is like a top secret mission. So, no, we can't tell him. He said, well, that's such a long time. I don't know if this can wait. And skipper said, okay, you know what? Tell you what, for an extra 10%, rush charges, I'll do it in 6 months. And Noah said, okay. And off he went to gather the animals. Oh, I didn't tell you this part. So, when God described this project, he said to Noah, all right, you got to gather 2 of each kind of animal. Right? Not 1, not 3. 2, no more. And it's got to be a male and a female. And I was like, huh? And, well, so that afterwards, oh, okay. And so now, Noah had 6 months to gather all the animals. Now, gathering animals is hard, right? It's like herding cats, which are also animals. And so off Noah went, and it's not easy. I mean, right? Have you ever seen a goat? Like he's like trying to grab a goat over here, and then the other one's running this way, and dogs and cats and cows and loraxes and all the different animals from all four corners of the earth, which was there weren't as many animals in those days. Like, I mean, can you imagine doing it now? You need a big boat. And so he did that, and meanwhile, 6 months go by. Noah shows up down at the dock. Well, yeah. No, he went to the bar, and the skipper's there, and Noah said, well, where's my boat? And the skipper shook his head. And he said, I'm very, very sorry, but due to the longshoremen's strike, your boat's not ready. Come back in another 6 months. And you know what? You don't have to pay the rush charges. Well, even though Noah was worried, he's thought, okay, you know what, because he hadn't collected all the animals yet. You know, some of them are pretty fast, like the greyhounds. And you know, if they're anything like, we have 2 dogs, okay? We got Zuki and Maisie. This, me and my wife. And Maisie, she's a nut, right? If you tried taking her out for a walk, she gets up on her hind legs and she's like so excited, right? And you know, and then Zuki's running this way and trying to get them together just to go for a walk. And here's Noah, right? He's not just dealing with Zuki and Maisie. He's got everything. But Noah's a great man, great organizer, and you know, he was sort of the original Dr. Dolittle. The animals, or a dog whisperer, he and the animals, they had, right, simpatico. So he got all the animals together, and he brought them down to the Home Depot at the dock in Newport News, and the year was up, the boat was ready, and off they went. He led the animals up the ramp to their quarters. And let me tell you about this boat. Okay, even though this was like the entry-level boat, made out of wood, copper trim, you know, different size quarters depending on the animal it was intended for. You can still actually, the Ark, if you want to see it in person, they've got it. Have you heard of the Ritz-Carlton Yacht Collection? You can actually go out to sea on this yacht. Anyway, so he gathered up, he's like pulling goats, and, you know, leading the cows and all animals. There must have been dozens, 100,000, who knows, a lot, up the ramp onto the boat. And he raised the ramp, and he raised the sails, because this was before diesel motors. And off they sailed upon the blue Atlantic. It was a beautiful day, right? Noah's never sailed a boat before, but he's starting to get cocky. He said, oh, I got this. It's calm. It's beautiful. And he started to sing. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Sing it with me. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. If you like that song, you got to go to Spotify and download the Oklahoma soundtrack So off they went. Well, Noah got a little bit too cocky too early. The weather started getting rough. The tiny ship was tossed. Not for the courage of Noah and the crew. Well, they did get lost. They didn't have maps. This is like it was a long time ago. Well, Noah looked up ahead, up in the sky, and he could see one lonely white cloud. Just a little puffy cloud. Oh, so cute. And then another. And then another. And pretty soon all the clouds are piling up. And there's thunder. And lightning. There's not really a lightning sound, so just imagine the lightning. And it started raining. And this was not like one of the kind of rains that we get here, like a little sprinkle or, drizzle. No, this is like it's like raining cats and dogs. But not literally, because he had his two, not one, not three, no more. And it's raining. And now everybody's scared, right? The animals are stressed out because you remember these are land animals. They're not used to bobbing up and down on the water. Now, what do animals do when they're stressed? Do you know? They eat. Now, what do they eat? They eat each other. We can't have that. There's only two of each, right? God didn't leave any wiggle room. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Well, luckily, the U.S. Army Air Corps, they drop-shipped 200 metric tons of Purina puppy chow just off the bow side of the boat. It's called the Marshall Plan. And so the animals didn't have to eat each other. And it rained. And it rained for 40 days. And 40 nights. I knew there was there was a payoff. 40 days and 40 nights. They're going through this. Now, day 37. People were, it's like, is this ever going to end? And so who should pop up from below deck? Why, it's Captain Jonathan Thorne. You might remember him. He was the guy, so when the Astor Party left New York, and it was like 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. So Captain Thorne, he was the 2 if by sea guy. He sailed around the Horn on the Tonkin, and Noah, he pops up. Oh, and they were going to set up a fur trading colony, a whole network of trading posts, starting at the mouth of the Columbia River. And so he pops up from below deck, and Noah looks at him, and what are you doing here? And Thorne said, well, I got separated from the Tonkin. Anyway, I'm just going to I got to grab my man Aiken and a couple of the Hawaiians, and we're going to take one of the canoes and find a break in the sandbar that's blocking the Columbia River. It's to this day, that's a very treacherous crossing, okay? And so Aiken comes up and Thorne tells it, all right, get in a canoe. Technically, it wasn't a canoe, but it was like a life raft or a dinghy or something. And Achan said, no way, I mean, look what's going on, the rain and the thunder and the lightning and everything. And Thorn grabs him by the collar, and I'm the captain, and overboard into the canoe, dinghy, whatever. And then he grabs a couple of the Owyhees. That's what they called Hawaiians in those days. He grabs them. Over the, what do you call the side of the boat? Well, whatever you call it. Into the canoe, and they lower the canoe, and that's the last we saw of them. They didn't make it, so anyway, a lot of sacrifice, those early explorers. And okay, so that's day 37. That was probably the most dramatic thing that happened. All of a sudden, one day, the sky started to clear. Sunshine, a rainbow. No one had never seen one of those before. It's like, I'm going to sail this ship to the end of the rainbow, and I bet you there's a pot of gold. Well, the sky cleared, and I don't know about you, okay? But when I was a kid, I used to like to sit in the bathtub and play with my boats. And then after about 45 minutes or an hour, my mom would come in, and she said, that's enough. And she would pull the plug. And that would be the end of it. So the same thing happened here. God pulled the plug. And the waters receded. And the boat came crashing down right in the middle of the Owyhees. Between a rock and a Jackson's. And Noah turned his attention to the sky. He went like this. I mean, this is how you get God's attention. He said, God, now what? And God said, well, we're done. Like, let the animals loose and have a good life. No. And you're probably wondering, well, what about Thorn? Well, as soon as he didn't wait for God, he just split. Okay, we're not going to talk about him anymore. But no, let the animals off the ramp. Took the sails down, went down the ramp, and went into the Jacksons because it's been a long trip. He's got to go to the bathroom. The sign on the bathroom said, closed for repair. So he grabbed a fried egg sandwich, left a couple shekels and a pointy rock on the counter, because there was nobody there. They all got wiped out in the flood. And off he ran, straight into the heart of Middleton. The children of Israel, they're tired. And they're hungry. They've been wandering around the desert west of here for years. And they're sick of eating those crackers. Nothing but crackers. Oh, what's for breakfast? Crackers. Lunch? Crackers. Dinner! You guessed it. Crackers. I mean, occasionally, the Army Air Corps would drop manna, but it's mostly crackers. And the children of Israel, they raised their voices in a great cry. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And Moses had to yank out his hearing aid. He couldn't even hear himself think. And this was in the days before, like, the over-the-ear hearing aids or cochlear implants. No, he had like old school. And he yanked it out. Like, what am I going to do now? Oh, I'm going to send Joshua. So he got Joshua, and Joshua came to Moses, and Moses says, I want you to go up ahead. I want you to see what's out there. And Joshua said, you can count on me, Moses. And he grabbed 3 more Owyhees, and off they went. Well, they were gone for a long time. I mean, hours, days, like several days, they're gone. And the children of Israel are saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And Moses is like, unplugs the hearing aid. And then, oh, look, it's Joshua. He's coming back. And he comes back with a big grin. And Moses says, where's the Owyhees? And Joshua looked around and he said, they were just here. I don't know where they went. And Moses said, okay, well, let's stay on topic. So what did you find? And Joshua, he was smiling. He said, I found a land of milk and honey. And Moses said, well, I'm lactose intolerant. And Joshua looked Moses in the eye and he said, Moses, it's not just all about you. And Moses said, oh, you're right. And so they gathered the children of Israel together. And Moses says, I have great news. Just up ahead is a land of milk and honey. Now, if you're lactose intolerant like me, well, just stick to the honey. But remember, don't feed the honey to any infants under 1 year of age. And they all nodded their heads. They were just glad, finally. 40 years, that's a long time. And so they walked. But now they had renewed hope. Oh, finally, promised land. Yeah. And they walked and they walked. And then in the distance, they could see a ramp going up to the heavens. And Moses said, God, show me a sign. And they walked. God didn't answer right away. The ramp was long and it was steep. And they walked up the ramp. And there at the top of the ramp was a sign. But it was not from God. It was from the Department of Transportation. And it said Middleton, that way. And Moses looked. And he said, I don't see anything. It's kind of like it is now. And Joshua said, have faith, it's there. Now, meanwhile, a bunch of the Israelites thought, Moses, you're all right, but we're going to go our own way. We're going to New Plymouth. And so they sheared off, headed the other way. And they were never heard or seen from ever again. And those are your lost tribes. Well, the remaining Israelites, they hoofed it to the east. And they arrived in the promised land, Middleton. Imagine their surprise when they discovered that Noah got there first with his circus. And there was a problem. The problem is this. With all that flooding, Middleton had become an island, which was a huge pain, right? How do you conduct commerce? I mean, not only is no man an island, but no city should be an island either. I mean, unless you're Honolulu. Well, Mayor Jackie called a meeting of the city council. And she said, Noah, I want you to be director of the flood control district. And he was approved by unanimous consent, much like you here in the Historical Society did today. And Noah kind of, he didn't really want to do it, but okay, I'll do it. And Mayor Jackie said, well, we can't be an island, what do we do? And Noah said, well, you got to move the city. And Mayor Jackie said, we can't move. We just everybody signed a 10-year lease. And Noah said, that's okay. We're going to do it in stages, right? As the leases expired. 1, 2, and that's how Middleton ended up where it is today. But there was a second group that was going overland. And one of the partners in that group was a man named Donald Mackenzie. You ever heard of him? He comes rolling into town, all 312 pounds. He's a big man, but he was always on the move. Do you know what his nickname was? Perpetual Motion. It's true. It's true. I mean, maybe they did it in French so that it sounds better. It's shorter. Like, shorter is better. And so, anyway, old Perpetual Motion rolls into town, and he says, hey, have you people seen 3 Owyhees wandering around? And everybody's shaking their head, but Joshua, he's not shaking his head. He's kind of like shrinking to the back of the room. Right? Maybe I won't get caught in it. No, this is stupid. I just gotta fess up. No matter what happens. And so he goes up to Mackenzie and he said, the 3 Owyhees that you're looking for, I think they're the same 3 Owyhees that came with me searching for the promised land. I don't know how they got mixed up with us, but they did. Anyway, and I thought they were with me. And I came back, and then Moses said, hey, where are the Owyhees? And I said, I don't know. They were just here. And anyway, that's what happened. And Mackenzie, he was a pretty cool dude. Okay? He didn't, like, if he was pissed off at you, he wouldn't, like, this or throw you overboard like Captain Thorne. He said, okay, we got to organize a search party. And so he said, I want every able-bodied man to come with me. And so he gathered up all the able-bodied men in Middleton, and off they went to go search for the lost Owyhees. You're thinking, well, who's left in town? Right? It's just old people, sick people, women, children. You don't want to leave your town like that, because the word gets out, and the word got out clear on down to Utah, where the Mitchell brothers lived. Do you know the Mitchell brothers? Walter, Artie, also known as Eddie, right? They each 2 Eddies. How confusing is that? Well, the brothers got wind that Middleton was defenseless. So what did they do? They packed up their beards and they came up. And they burst into the Middleton bank. And they said, all right, hands up, this is a stick-up. Now, the people were old and feeble. They couldn't hear. And so they're going about their business, and then Walter grabs an old gentleman by the collar, and he spins him around. And he said, did you hear me? Put your hands up. This is a stick-up. And the monocle popped out from his eye. He said, oh, dear. Everybody was scared. And, this time now, everybody in the bank, they're like this. And Artie goes around and he ties everybody up. And he goes up to the teller window. He said, all right, give me all your small bills. and sticking in a bag, and no funny business, like none of these exploding dye packets, none of that. And the teller said, "What exploding dye packet? What are you talking about?" And, well, they hadn't been invented yet. Anyway, so the teller did that, and then Artie went around and he tied up the teller and any stragglers, and now he looked at Walter, and Walter looked at him and said, "All right, let's get out of here." They escaped the bank with $1,600. It's a lot of money. We still don't know where it went. I have a theory. We'll come back to that. So they run out of the bank and they hop into their escape vehicle, and off they go, racing down Main Street, which is a dirt road, okay? And this is before it got paved. And they're kicking up a big cloud of dust. And meanwhile, these boys were no Boy Scouts, okay? They could not tie a knot. And so all the hostages, they got free pretty quick, and they ran out the bank, and they're chasing after the brothers, and they're like, "We're never going to catch them. We need a car." Well, right then, Mr. Peacock was walking by with his little white Scotty dog named, I think his name was Bill. Penny, do you remember what the dog's name was? Johnny. No, that was Cary Grant.
Oh.
Anyway, let's just say the dog's name is Bill. Anyway, everybody was so excited to go after the Mitchell brothers, right? And so they hopped into Mr. Peacock's car, and off they went. And Bill the dog, he got left behind in the commotion. He's running down the street. And but even, okay, in a panic situation like that, just remember you got a dog, bring the dog along. And luckily, Virginia Moberly, she was over at the library, and she heard the barking, so she took the dog in for now. And off they went in Mr. Peacock's. It was a Hudson Super 6. Fancy car, top speed 18 miles an hour. And they're following the cloud of dust down Main Street. Boys have a little bit of a head start. But Mr. Peacock, he was a driving enthusiast. And he had the gas pedal to the floor, and boom, 18 miles an hour down Main Street. Now, wouldn't you know, who comes right out into the middle of the street? Moses and his flock of sheep. And Peacock, he's on the horn. Auga, auga, auga. But by then it was too late. The Mitchell brothers were long gone. So Peacock, he turned around and headed back into town. He ended up at our place. Which, funny thing about our place, it used to be the Middleton Bank. And so he was looking for the sheriff, and the sheriff was, let's just say. And so he went into our place, and he told the sheriff what was up. And keep in mind, right, all the able-bodied men had gone off to search for the missing Owyhees. So all that's left in town is the riffraff, and the derelicts, and the cowards, and the women and children who wouldn't get to be in a posse because this is 1926, and somebody had to stay home and cook. That sounded sexist. Well, but this was 1926, okay? They had a different worldview. So anyway, sheriff gathered up his posse, and off they went. Now you're wondering, well, God, the Mitchell brothers, they must be long gone. They must have hopped on the 84 and they're probably clear in Ontario by now. But the boys, they didn't want to stick to the main route. And they thought, you know what, I got an idea. Let's turn left. And do you remember the street that they turned down? Hartley. They turned down Hartley. Okay? And they were going, and they're laughing, and they hit a dead end. Farmer Paul's field, and there's a fence. And they look at each other. Now what? What are we supposed to do? And Walter and Artie said, well, you know what? Let's hop the fence. We'll ditch the car, grab the money, and we'll go out into Farmer Paul's field. Now, if you've ever robbed a bank, like, what's your name, sir? Yeah. Steve, you ever robbed a bank? Not correct? Okay. Well, just imagine that you have.
Not lately.
The last place you want to go hide is in a farmer's field. Why? Well, it's wide open. Nowhere to hide. But Farmer Paul's field, it was different. There was a tree. And the brother said, hey, well, let's go hide behind the tree. And then when things cool off, then we'll get out of here. Well, it took a while, but the sheriff and his posse caught up to the boys. And now they all pour over the fence onto the field. And the sheriff looks around and he sees the tree. And he said, I bet those Mitchell boys are hiding behind the tree. And so he says, all right, Mitchell brothers, come out with your hands up. And Walter yelled back, no! And the sheriff spun around to face his posse and says, did you hear what he said? You people are making too much noise. And one guy said, well, I'm not, no, I don't, no, we didn't hear. And the sheriff spun back around and he said, I didn't hear you. You mind repeating that? And Walter said, no! And the sheriff turned to his posse, and everybody had their guns drawn. And the sheriff said, if there's going to be any shooting, it's going to be me. So put your guns away. And they weren't happy about it, but they put the guns away. And the sheriff turned back to the tree, and he said, I'm going to give you one more chance. Just one more chance. And Walter yelled back, no! Well, now the sheriff's really mad. And so he pulls out his gun. Bam! Straight into the tree above the boys' heads. And then everybody else figured it's a free-for-all. And they all pulled out their guns, and everybody's shooting at the tree, and the sheriff's like, cease fire! Cease fire! And eventually they ceased it. Thank God nobody was killed. And luckily nobody was a good shot. Otherwise somebody might have been killed. Who knows? Well, the brothers looked at each other and said, I didn't sign up for this. And so Walter yelled out, all right, we're coming out with our hands up. Don't shoot. Please don't shoot. And they came out and the sheriff arrested them and he hauled them down to the Jersey Lane tree where Judge Roy Bean was presiding. Now, Judge Roy Bean, he was known as the hanging judge, right? And if you asked him, he said, I'm the only law west of the Pecos. That was Judge Roy Bean. And he sentenced those boys to 20 years of hard labor. And off they went to the Idaho Penitentiary, which you can visit. It's the old pen out in Boise. It's about a day's ride from here. And they were prisoners 3663 and 3664. 20 years of hard labor. And they had to learn prison songs. The road is long, with many a winding turn. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. It was like that. And the food was pretty good because they grew it themselves. But it was not a place you want to be. And 6 months later, Artie, the young one, he kicked the honey pot. He died of TB. And you can look up what the honey pot is. I don't want to tell you what it is while you're eating your snacks. So he kicked the honey pot. It was TB. And here's my theory. Okay, that's $1,600 that we don't know where it went. I think it went to TB research. But it was too little, too late. Well, Walter got out in 32. Okay? And he went back to Utah to be with relatives. Because down in Utah, everything's relatives. Now that Middleton had been relocated, well, they could disband the flood control district, and Noah retired, but he was bored. And so Mayor Jackie said, hey, how do you like to be chief of police? And Noah said, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And so he became chief of police. And there wasn't too much going on. I mean, after the bank robbery, things kind of settled down for a little bit. And then one day, Betsy, she was the dispatcher. She comes running into Noah's office. And she said, Chief, because he was the chief. She said, Chief, Farmer Paul's cows got out, and they're walking down Main Street towards Star. See, they were. Let me tell you why they got out. Okay. So Farmer Paul, he was kind of a ladies' man. All right, good-looking fella. Black curly hair, braces, rode a gold and white BSA motorcycle. You know, you ever seen one of those? I mean, it was a beauty, right? And even though he was highly capable to repair a fence, the guy, not only was he a farmer, he was a contractor. He could build anything. But he had neglected the cows. He wasn't milking his cows. And he let the fence get into a state of disrepair. And so the cow said, screw this. Sorry. We're going to get milked. And so they went over the fence, and they're heading down Main Street towards Star to the Sea Salt Creamery. I mean, they're thinking, we'll go there, and they'll milk us. They're cows, okay? They don't get processed. They just figure we'll show up, they'll milk us, and everybody's happy. Doesn't work like that. So now the cows are clogging Main Street, and everybody, the traffic's backing up. The trucks with their uncovered loads can't Can't zip through town spraying gravel onto everybody's windshields. I mean, what a mess. And so that was around then is when Betsy ran in and told the chief, and he gathered up the entire police department, all 3 of them. And they went out and they rounded up the cows and they brought them back. And Farmer Paul swore up and down he would repair the fence, and he did. And then he would, in the future, he'd make sure to milk the cows on a regular basis. Because here's the thing. I don't care if we're talking about cows or your husband or your wife. You gotta milk them every now and then. Now I know I've been rattling on for a long time. And it's a lot to absorb. You know, if you want to know about your town. But all these stories can be found in a book called Middleton in Picture and Story. And you could buy it in the back. It's only $25, right? Is it $25, or do they get a discount because they're on the board?
Absolutely.
You don't have to.
No, members get a discount.
You get a discount, okay? So how much is it?
10%.
10%. That's $250, or is it before or after tax?
It's $250.
It's $250, okay? So you can buy that book, and you can read these stories in more in depth. And you can also visit my website, which is lbcats.com. That's LB, K as in kilo, A as in alpha, T as in tango, Z as in Zulu.com. I learned the phonetic alphabet on that ride with Noah. We had to be up to speed on everything. Anyway, you can see more of my stories there. And that's it. You've been great. Thank you so much.
If you want, I'm going to go get our door prizes.
Oh, door? Okay. Cool.
So, any questions? Fire away. I'm sure he'll have an answer.
I got answers to all kinds of questions.
Well, thanks for tying all that together.
It's right. Were you kind of
I
wondering?
wondered about all
Did it come together satisfactorily at the end?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I understand.
Okay. Are you
No.
a Middleton native? Yeah.
For now, yeah.
For now, okay.
36 years.
Well, so you're not a
Raised in Boise.
definitely not a Middleton native then.
Not really.
Not really. Okay. But did they,
Several times this way.
have they accepted you here?
Well, I gotta get around, I don't.
Okay.
So,
So
maybe they did, maybe they didn't.
But-
Nobody told me.
nobody told. Okay. So well, but you're an upstanding citizen, sort of.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Okay.
Okay, does
Yeah,
everybody,
and the rest of me.
did everybody get their tickets in?
Okay.
Oh. Prize,
530-397.
no.
That's you.
Come on up.
Jamie, got a hat, the walking tour book, a coupon to Middleton Espresso, or a mug? The mug. Yeah.
It's gonna look
See,
better
I'm-
than good me.
I'm not looking, right? 530-396.
Patty.
All right, Patty, come on up.
Whoa, sorry.
Oh.
Gotta bring him back in.
So we have the
Gift certificate to Middleton Espresso. All right.
okay. Here we go.
Thank you. Good job.
Oh, there's two of them.
We got 2 prizes left.
Okay, so we got 393, 530-393.
Oh, that's me.
Well, Tootie.
Tootie! I was hoping Tootie would win.
And?
I'm gonna pick a new one. 530416.
Nina. Thank you.
Thank you.
This would be apart from snacks and any purchases you might want to make, so thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does your wife feel